Hey friends, welcome back to the Kirkpatrick Podcast. It is Vanessa and I've got a very special, I think I say that all the time. They're all special, but I'm very excited about this one. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Kirkpatrick model today. Now you say, Vanessa, we talk about the Kirkpatrick model all the time. Yes, you are correct. We talk about the Kirkpatrick model all the time. However, I think if you ask people what the Kirkpatrick model is, you're going to hear some version of the same answer. You're going to hear smile sheets. There's 4 levels, something you do after a training event. You're going to hear about it's linear. And to be fair, that's how many of us were introduced to it. I was no different than many of you in how I was introduced to Kirkpatrick. Not directly from the Kirkpatricks and hearing about the true intent of the model and things like that, but hearing, I self-learned it, but also for many of you, it could be through like a master's program or something like that, that has their own view of what the Kirkpatrick model is or what it looks like. So today I want to talk about something a little bit different. Not what the Kirkpatrick model is, but what it was never meant to be. Because many of the limitations that people associate with the model aren't actually flaws in the model itself. They're the result of how it's been oversimplified to be explained and thought of. So over time, the Kirkpatrick model through, let's say like your master's program or through, a certification program, not the Kirkpatrick certification program, but, like an instructional design certification program, or just through teaching each other, in our L&D department, we took the model and we packaged it in a way that was teachable and scalable. So in the process of that, the Kirkpatrick model became linear instead of exploratory. It became event-focused instead of performance-based. And it ended up being reduced to forms and levels instead of conversations and questions. And this simplification made the model much easier to adopt, but it also narrowed how it was used. And when a model designed to support learning is treated as a checklist, its impact is inevitably limited. I get so many emails from folks saying, can you give us or how do I purchase the Kirkpatrick model assessment? And the fact is, that's the wrong way of looking at how you apply an evaluation model. It's not about one assessment or one checklist to get you through. It's about what does the intervention that I'm looking to evaluate, what sort of questions are we looking to have answered? And then what data do I need to pull in order to get that? And then how do I get that data? And too often we simplified something that should have never been simplified. We don't ask PhDs to simplify how they do their research, right? They have to come up with their hypothesis. They've got to do their data gathering, and they've got to look at, multiple sources of data and things like that. And they've got to, come up with their reports and their recommendations, right? And their answer to their hypothesis, right? And yet we expected the Kirkpatrick model and evaluation of learning to be very simple because we needed to get on to the next thing. And the most important thing that we can do in our work is not develop the intervention. It's actually ensure that we're asking the right questions in order to ensure that the intervention that we're developing is the right solution to the problem. And when we oversimplified, we saw that folks made the Kirkpatrick model just smile sheets at level 1, tests for level 2, a quick 90-day survey. Are you applying what you've learned? And then level 4 was just about financial ROI for many organizations. An evaluation just became something that you complete, not something that you actually used. And this focus shifted from understanding performance to actually validating activity. And I don't know about you, but listen, I do love validation. Don't get me wrong. I could use more of it in my life from time to time, but validation isn't actually what's going to help me grow. Telling me how great I am all the time isn't actually what's going to push me to be the person and the leader and the mom that I know I should be, or I know that I could be, or maybe I don't even know that I could be. It's kind of the whole point. It's in those people that challenge your thinking and in those moments where you get feedback that is not positive that you start to create better solutions. And then when you do take all of that feedback in and you create something with that, you push yourself to a place that you didn't even know you could go. And when you put something out there, it just clicks and it becomes right. And I can tell you it's something with the launch of the Kirkpatrick Collective that kind of felt that way. Listening to all the feedback, what people wanted, all of those sorts of things. When I launched the collective, the feedback I got, look, I'm used to getting some emails when I launch something new or make a change. There's always someone that's a little upset about it, or that is, has feelings about it. And that's fair. Everyone is allowed to have an opinion and have them. But the move to the collective has been the most well-received thing that I have done in my entire career. And I've been, January 5th, I think, or January 6th was my very first day in the working world back in 2009. So I don't know. That was a long time ago. We're talking, I guess, 17 years. Wow. So in 17 years, I would say it was the most well-received thing that I have done. Where people felt like, okay, this is the move. But it took me, people pushing me in my assumptions of what I should be doing to actually come up with this sort of solution where I finally just said, let's just take all the certifications, make them asynchronous, and have coaching and labs and really double down on what I know to be true, and that people want community and people love to learn from each other. And that is the best way to pull out performance, right? And give them the tools, give them the resources, give them the case studies, and just keep building and adding more and more into it. Let's just do that. And it's been well received, but it would not have happened if I was not pushed to think of, how do we scale? How do we move this forward? How do we take this company and help get it to the next level? And this was one of those pieces of that building block. And we've got to know that when we take that simplification of the Kirkpatrick model, we try to avoid true evaluation, which we know at levels 3 and 4 means we've got to be talking to people. We've got to really be understanding the business to understand the KPIs, that we're not going to get there. We might hear things from our evaluation, right? From our conversations that is going to be hard for us to hear, right? They may say that training did nothing for me. I don't use anything of what I learned. And trust me, I know this, we pour our heart and our soul into what it is that we're developing. And we really think about, how can make this such a great experience for others. And it can be challenging to hear that thing that you thought was going to be so great and work so well be not well received. Look, when that email comes in from ATD or Training Mag or whatever, right? With my speaker feedback, know that I have like a moment of, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to open up the email and it's going to be nerve-wracking. And, we're going to have a moment. We're going to do the thing. And I may not like what I see or what I read. And that's going to stink because I put a lot into, this presentation and I thought it was going to be really great and maybe it didn't hit. And it will tell you more often than not, we're actually very pleasantly surprised. But sometimes I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask for feedback because I'm afraid, but I know that's not the right way. So know that I know there's a very human thing that happens and we get this fear of feedback because we also have a fear of failing and being wrong and being am I psychologically safe in an organization where it's okay for me to have been wrong about what I maybe went to bat for and said, this was going to be the next big thing. This is going to be the solution to our problem. Then it wasn't. Now, also know this, that if you're doing evaluation properly, your ability to get so close to hitting the mark on what the need is just multiplies, right? And you actually miss the mark more when you don't actually do the evaluation and you're going from gut instinct and what I feel and maybe what I learned about or what my friend at this other company is doing. That seems to be working out so well for them. This is why okay, here we go, Vanessa, on another tangent. Welcome to the podcast if you're new here. Vanessa likes to go on tangents because she says things and then it's there's something else in her brain. Okay, so we go to a lot of these conferences. We go to these webinars because we want to learn about what's working somewhere else and pull, right? And I think that's great. I think we should be learning from others. I think that we should be knowing, I am all, it's why I built the community. I want people to come together and share, this is what we're doing to deal with this challenge and all of that. And know that when you are taking in that information, there may be other factors that enable that thing to succeed at that organization. Whether it is having the right access to tools, having, the right resources, having support, from leaders, having support from managers to actually, really support their employees in, the new process or the new thing that they learned, right? Maybe they just have a kick-ass culture, maybe they have psychological safety where failing is okay. There are all these other pieces to the puzzle that ensure something is going to work out that cannot be ignored. So you can't just take, hey, this worked over here really well, I'm going to apply it to our organization without really deep diving, why did that work out so well? What was part of the environment and the system of that organization that helped to make it successful here? And really take a deep dive and look at our own organization and say, can we do that? Do we have those same systems and that same sort of environment for this to thrive? If the answer is no, does not mean don't do it. It just means Is there a smaller scale where we do have those same conditions or very similar conditions where we can deploy a pilot to show, hey, if we do these things differently, if we do it this way, this is how it works out. And so if you now take it from this, and here are all the factors that actually enabled for it to be successful. So if we can take that and put it on a bigger scale, imagine the success we could have in our organization. So a little bit of a side tangent on the conference idea. But I think it's also part of this whole conversation I'm having now about this oversimplification. We oversimplify what it takes for something to be successful. Does that make sense? We just think like this new tool is going to be the magic bullet. This new, gamification is going to be it, right? AI is going to help solve all of our problems. It won't. It's going to change the way we work, but it ain't going to solve all the problems because we're still human. People still dealing with people. So yeah, oversimplification of the Kirkpatrick model really, really, I think hurt the model. And I think this idea that, and I think it was also our lack of true education on the model and really going to the proper sources and assuming that all sources are true. All sources have the accurate interpretation, and all sources have that right intent behind how they are sharing the model. Because not everyone has the right intent for how they're going to share it, the Kirkpatrick model, and then it ends up spreading more misinformation. It's a big thing that we battle internally at Kirkpatrick Partners. Huge. We do it all the time. So I want to just reiterate this. The Kirkpatrick model to date has been oversimplified. And that oversimplification has limited its impact. Now, the model is simple and flexible, 100%. But there's a fine line between simplicity and oversimplification. And this idea, it's the same thing that I think about when I think about Addie. Like, the model itself was never meant to be linear, that you move through after training. It was truly meant for organizations to help understand performance. What's changing, what's not, and why, and then what do we do about it? And what is working that we want to continue to use in other contexts so we can continue to compound the success. And when we reduce to just smile sheets and levels, we miss what makes the Kirkpatrick model so powerful. One of the things and the most common moments that we have when people come into the Kirkpatrick Collective and into the community is when I hear someone say, wow, this is not how I ever knew or was taught the Kirkpatrick model. This has completely changed how I view evaluation and the model. And that realization isn't uncomfortable. It's actually freeing for the person because it then opens the door to so many other possibilities of how they can think of performance and they can think of learning and they can think of how they show up in the organization and how they can use their skills in a completely different way. It actually opens them up to rethink their identity, at work. And when we can use the model as a way to report and think about performance and really understand what makes someone perform and not just a way of we're going to use this thing to report out on what we did, it can completely change the trajectory of an organization and a career. So if you felt like you've been limited by the Kirkpatrick model, as it's usually described, you're not alone. It's, a lot of us. And the issue isn't truly the model. It's the version of the model that many of us have inherited. And we need to better understand what does the model do? How can we use it? And how can it help influence our organization, our work? And how can we use it also as a tool for influence? And how can we think about how we show up with the Kirkpatrick model differently? So with that, friends, I hope you enjoyed this different take on getting to know the Kirkpatrick model. We're going to take you along all month, getting to know the model a little bit more in depth, talk more about the changes we're making to it or we have made to it that will come out in it is out, but you'll see it in my book, Building a Culture of Evaluation, available for pre-order wherever you love to pre-order, but Amazon and Barnes & Noble definitely, but out for release on May 12th, 2026, which we're very excited about. And yes, we will talk to you all or catch up with you all on the next episode. Bye.